to start and run a business in 20 hours a week. Hey, if you're new here, I'm Sheena Shuey. I am a therapist who specializes in burnout and anxiety, as well as the trauma that sits underneath that, and I'm a business mentor. Now, I want to talk about this topic because this podcast has always been about personal development and growing yourself and all of that. And so I shied away a little bit from the business strategy side or the business mentorship side. But the reality is I'm going deeper and deeper into that area. And the two are intricately connected. I find a lot of people, when they elevate their personal development journey, whether they're in big corporates or whatever, they get to a point where they realize what their worth is and that they're either not getting paid what they're worth or that their time is worth more than everything they've got going on, or they're ready to let go of the ego. They're ready to let go of the status of that job, right? So I want to explain that I have had friends who worked for big corporations and had sort of the status like director of X or people manager or CFO, whatever the big title is, right? Once they let go of the ego, which is holding on to those roles, titles, statuses, like over-identifying with those, right? And became virtual assistants. These are people with university degrees, master's degrees, okay? They became a virtual assistant, doubled their income, way more money. Why? Because they were intentional about it. They let go of the ego and they were strategic about it. And if you join me on my Instagram live, so I go live on Instagram every Friday at 10 o'clock. So if you ever want to ask me questions live or straight up, that's a great space to be. But I was talking about recently the three areas that you really need to make all of this work if you want to run a business in 20 hours a week. You need the psychological aspect, which is, why have I been conditioned to believe that the only way to make over 100K, for example, is working 40 hours a week? Why do I think that I can somehow manage my mental health, take care of the kids, do all the things, plus work 40 hours a week? Even if you're listening to this and you don't have children, or maybe you're planning on having kids one day, all the things, I really actually believe that most people working 40 hours a week are suffering from some level of mental health issue or cycling through it. 1 year they're very anxious and depressed, then they take a break, they work on themselves, they get out of it for a year, then they go right back to where they come from, where that burnout, anxiety, depression comes back again. And the reason why is because in their therapeutic interventions, they haven't let go of the conditioning of why rest is bad in your eyes, or why working less somehow equates to poverty. That's a very employee mindset, because as an employee, that is true. Your time is tied to your money, so you get paid per hour. When you have your own business, you get paid for results. And I've used this example before, but let's say you're selling websites. If you pay me to give you a website, you're not paying me a per hour rate. You're paying for the result of a website, whether it's 5 pages of a website, 10 pages, whether it's branded, whether it's not, whether it's SEO, there's a whole bunch of things. But regardless, you're paying me for that product, that end result, that end service. And so it's the same price whether it takes me 40 hours or 2 hours or 20 hours, yeah? Most services can actually be packaged up that way, But when you've been stuck in a per hour rate for so long, you attach your worth to the time invested in something. So I want to tell you that I know other people who charge thousands of dollars for a course that they made in one weekend. I know someone who made about, I think it's around 100 grand at this point, from a course that they made in one weekend. Now, they have done a lot of work on themselves. You know, they're in marketing. They've worked in Europe for a long time. Again, they let go of the prestige of working for some of these blue chip companies to just do their own online course and their online business, right? And again, I can tell you about how they've had a baby and they spend time with their baby now and they still make passive income. But I feel like unless you know this person, that just sounds wishy-washy. But I guess what I'm trying to get at is that for this particular person, you know, sometimes I see people create incredible value with their products and their services. But because they were like, oh, I made that in like a couple of hours, I couldn't possibly sell that for a few hundred or a few $1,000s. Because they're associating time with money rather than value with money. I hope that you're picking up what I'm putting down here is that you can dramatically impact somebody's life, how they run their business, how they run their life with your services and the outcomes and what you stand for, right? But you've got to let go of the time associated with it. So that's the first step, is that the psychological conditioning of letting go of rest is bad, letting go of I'm going to get punished if I'm resting. Because a lot of us, when we grew up, if we were just sitting around or playing, our parents would be like, why don't you get outside? Or why don't you go do something productive? Or why don't you go clean something if you're just sitting around? Like, a lot of us got punished for not doing, or we never saw our parents being leisurely. So maybe we never saw our parents just take a random day off. Maybe we never saw our parents just chilling out and reading a book or having a cup of tea. Maybe we never saw our parents just having fun with their friends over work. Maybe our parents never just took us on a random day off. Maybe our parents only gave us love when we did well. Oh, you did good on your grades? Fantastic. Oh, you got first in the race? Fantastic. Not telling us that we're worthy just as we are. And I've said this numerous times, but that previous generation thought that if they praised us just for being amazing as we are, that we would be narcissistic. When actually a lot of narcissists have never been validated for their worth, and which is why they chase achievement and worth in all the wrong ways, right? Love and worth through look at me, I'm better than you, because they're trying so hard to not break the shell of how insecure they are through validation. Constant. So that's the thing, is many of us never grew up with someone going, hey, you know that you're beautiful just as you are. You're amazing just as you are. I'm really proud of you for the person you've become, just as you are. Not tied to the achievement, because we want to praise people when they do achievements. It's amazing. But we've also got to praise people, just make them feel like they're good enough, like you're doing enough. You're enough. So that's the one part of it, because if you don't get that part right, the psychological part right, I've seen this with my mentees before when they haven't let go of that belief yet, is we create abundance and time and space. So they're earning more money. We make enough space that they could run their business in 20 hours a week, and then they fill it. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. Or they somehow are right back to 40-hour weeks again, and they're burning out and they're like, oh, Sheena, like, I don't know. And it's like, we got to go back to why, and a lot of the time it's like, oh, I just felt like I wasn't doing enough. You are enough. I can guarantee everyone listening to this is doing enough, because everyone in our generation is doing so much more than previous generations. Now, you might find that hard to believe because there's a lot of things that make us lazy, like cars and all of that. But, computers and things, like we're not making our flour from scratch and that kind of thing. So you might go, oh, how is it, harder now? The mental load is far greater and we have less support around us. So even if previous generations were making everything from scratch, we were supported in doing that. We had family around us, friends around us. We all financially supported each other, physically, emotionally. So just being mindful of that. Okay, second step to having a 20-hour business week. Sorry, one last thing before I move on, apologies, is that anybody could be doing this. I just want to remind you that you've got to believe in yourself, whether you have a business, you don't have a business, you've started a business, whether you're years into a business, anyone can take on these principles. And even if you don't want to start a business just yet, I want you to still listen because you'll get a lot out of this, okay? So we've talked about the psychological part of a 20-hour work week, business week. Now we want to talk about the spiritual side of that. Now, when I talk about spirit, yes, there's things like the law of attraction and the law of assumption, working on frequencies and vibrations and affirmations and all that sort of stuff. Yes, so important. But it isn't just that. It's also your belief system, your core values, your legacy, and what's the legacy, you're going to leave. So how are people going to describe you when you pass, when you're in your 90s, when you're in your 80s? How are they going to describe the kind of person you were? It's the meaning-making piece. And it's your belief systems too, because there's psychological beliefs, yes, but it ties in with your spiritual beliefs of, I am becoming the person I'm destined to be. If you think about your most expansive version of you, are you going to be the most expansive version of you? And are you going to become the person you were born to be in your current workplace or in your current business and the way that it's going? Probably not. Because so many people I talk to when they do start or they run their business, I go, okay, what's your long-term vision? Despite whatever the product is, whatever the service is, I don't need to know. If I asked you, what do you stand for? What would you want people to know? What's something that you feel that you wished more people knew or wish more people realized? And I don't care how small or big or what kind of business you have, you can infuse this into what you do. So again, if we use the website example, if you sell websites, how impactful is that you're bringing someone's dreams to life? Because a lot of people only have online businesses now and they, a lot of them don't have the brick and mortar place anymore. So you're bringing someone's business dreams to life. You're helping them visualize their home base, where customers are going to come, where clients are going to come. You're giving people the first impression of them digitally. And how impactful is that for them, for their life, for their business, for their success? That's life-changing for some people. So you got to know what you stand for in that space. So, and that spiritual aspect is believing that I know what I stand for, and whether it's this business, whether it's this service, whether it's something else, as long as I know what I stand for, I'm going in that direction. Every challenge, every up, every down is bringing me further along and closer to what I stand for and my vision. Because it's really hard if you don't have some sort of belief system around why things happen to you. It's really hard to make sense of it when it does, or how you're going to get through this. And I know this from working with people in therapy. It's not just business. It's if you lose someone, for example, unexpectedly, you have an unexpected death in the family. The people who often make it through that easier, they have some sort of meaning-making piece, spiritual beliefs, religious beliefs, some sort of framework to go, this is what I now believe has happened to that person. I think they're a spirit. I can talk to them through this. I have a memory box. I believe they're always around. I believe they're in heaven. Whatever the belief is, if you have a way to make sense of what's happened, it's easier to process. If you have no framework or no idea what you believe in and that happens, somebody passes away unexpectedly, you don't know how to make sense of it. So again, it's the same thing in business, is that there's going to be lots of ups and downs, and there's, positive Google reviews, negative ones, positive comments, negative comments, cheerleaders, trolls. You got to ask yourself, how do I make sense of that? And do I believe that everything is making me stronger and closer to my dream and my vision? Or do I not know how to process that? So that's the second part, is going, this is possible for me. What are the beliefs that I have around, I can do this, and am I worthy of this? Or do I feel like I have to sacrifice? Do I feel like I can just be abundant? Or do I have a spiritual belief that people have to sacrifice and go through pain to receive? Do I think it's possible that people could just have a good life by being a good person? Or do I think that they need to sacrifice and give to receive? And how much do I give of myself? This is all stuff you got to figure out, yeah? So we talked about the psychological, we talked about the spiritual. Now the final aspect is the actual strategy. Now, again, this depends on different services, but the big strategy that I want to start with is, what is your ideal vision and day? Now, that is more a psychological and spiritual strategy of what's your ideal day, what's your ideal week, what's your ideal life look like? And a lot of people do this really wishy-washy. They kind of get a rough idea. No, you get this crystal clear in your mind. So for me, I have to do the school drop-off, I do the afternoon pickup, and I spend the afternoon with the kids, okay? So I have to be specific on what do I want things to look like and feel like on weekends when I do have the time with them, when I'm not around them, when I get, when I need a break. What does that all look like? What does it look like me taking care of myself? Am I at the gym? Am I at my home gym? Do I work for my business? Do I work from an office or do I work from home? Do I have a team? Do I like working on my own? Is my team in person? Is it online? Get specific as you can about what do you know that you thrive in? What would you like for yourself? This is all going to help us design the kind of service and strategy that you need to get to the 20-hour week. Yeah? So that's the kind of stuff you need to think about. Then once we know that, then we can go to, what are your core values? What's your story? What niche should you have that aligns with you and your story? Because again, I've worked with lots of business people who chose something out of money or ego, like they had something to prove, rather than, this connects to me emotionally. And I genuinely have a heart space for this, because you've got to have heart in business. Otherwise, it's a side hustle mentality. It's like, just get me the money, make me the money. When you do a side hustle, it's usually because I'm scraping to get money. When you do a business that's going to be your legacy and gives you the freedom to work 20 hours a week so you can be with your kids, so you can spend time, on your spiritual self. You can go to the beach whenever you want. You can take care of your physical self. That's very different. One's kind of like, oh, let's just do this on the side for money. The other one's like, this is my main thing, so I better make it good. Yeah? So it's thinking about those things, picking the right niche, picking the right ideal clients. That's all the strategy. And there's about 1 million podcast episodes on that elsewhere. You can figure that out. We go into it in our own unique way inside our business mentorship, but it's really important you know that. And then you can build your services around that in a way that your services are delivered in 20 hours a week without you constantly present. So they need to have both active and passive parts, meaning active that you need to be there for it and passive that you don't need to be there for that. Another great way to increase how much time you have is to delegate tasks to others, whether that's virtual assistants or you do need other types of team members. But most of the time, I would say 90% of the tasks that take up your time could be done with a virtual assistant or an admin. And again, we've got services for that too. So if you're like, Sheena, that's what I need. It can be things like messaging followers for you. It could be automating things like, have you ever seen a post that says comment here? You can automate the replies to the comments. There's so much you can automate. Email automation, fixing things on your website, doing all your invoicing, emails, appointment bookings, so that you can just focus on being the business owner and the leader that you are. And again, when I say leader, I mean someone who shows up in their true, authentic self with a reason to help people and a reason for why they do what they do. It doesn't mean you could be a solo business owner and a leader, okay? I just want to make that clear because sometimes people associate leadership with like having a massive team. It's how you hold yourself and how you teach people how to hold themselves. I don't know if you've ever had this, but have you ever had a friend who's just confident? They wear whatever they want. They speak whatever they want. They say whatever they want. It's infectious. It's like so wonderful to be around. And that's what we mean by leadership, is that your energy of this is what I stand for and I want that for you too is incredible. And you got to create that for yourself too. So that way, I have people that follow my content that have nothing to do with wanting to work on my business. My content resonates so deeply with people and the message because I know what I stand for. So they're tuning into me, even if they're not really interested in working with me in any capacity, because they know what they get from me, which is a reminder of what I stand for and what resonates with them. Yeah. So it's deep. This 20-hour business week academy and this business week model, it's so much deeper than just, oh, let's just start a business and so I have time. I'm going to have impact. And because I've set it up in the right way, my kids are going to remember that I spent time with them, because however you treat your kids when they're little is going to be how they treat you when you're older. Did you make time for them? They'll make time for you. Were you too busy for them? They'll be too busy for you. Were you always distracted and somewhere else when you're with them? They're probably going to be distracted and somewhere else when they're with you. So just remember that. Yeah? What's the legacy? How are people going to remember this time of your life with you? How are people going to remember you? Were you fun? Were you engaging? Were you knew what you stood for and you went for it? Or were you someone who was wishy-washy, flaky, sort of didn't know themselves very well, wasn't really there for their friends or family. They were constantly working, constantly busy, or like never really reached their full potential. It's like I saw this spark in them, but they never really took it off. You're more special than that. And I know if you're listening to this and you've come this far, you know that. I don't need to tell you that. You just need to believe it for yourself. And we need to unpack why you haven't already. Because I'm telling you right now, that's where most business mentors go wrong. They're only teaching you business strategy. And that's what happened to me. I had business mentors who didn't give a shit about me, didn't unpack anything with me because they couldn't. They didn't have the skills. I wouldn't want them to, because that would be like them getting out of their zone of genius, right? But what happened was I got booked up and burnt out. And if you've been on my Instagram lately, you'll see that story where I was booked up and burnt out. And that's what initiated the 20-hour Business Week Academy, because I'm like, I cannot do this. I've got 2 little boys. I'm trying to take care of my physical health, right? I gained a significant amount of weight during my pregnancies, and it's not healthy long term. Yeah, so I need to take care of myself. I need to be moving again, because I wasn't moving as much as I could have, and sedentary and making all the excuses, okay? Because I had all the excuses. I'm busy. I've got businesses, kids, dogs, houses, real estate, whatever. It's so easy to make those excuses. So I had to rejig everything, and I'm so glad I did. But it was scary. My income went down. My business got broken. Felt like I had to start again. New niche, new clients, new content. It sucks, because when you're used to sort of getting, again, the ego boost of likes and comments and shares, and then you have to change all of your niche and your marketing and all of that, and it goes down. Your income goes down. It's a trust the process thing, but I've built successful businesses before, and I'm doing it again. And this is what I want for you too. So again, whether you're starting, whether you're in it, whether it's years down the track and you're like, something has got to give because I can't keep going, I really would love for you to consider the 20-hour Business Week Academy and the Business Masterclass. So I have a free masterclass on this, on exactly the strategy, how to do it. So much more into the business strategy of how to do this, but it's possible for you. So check that out. That's really where we're going with things. But this space will always be a space where, whether you're in business or not, whether you're loving your business or not, you'll always come back to this space for the personal development, and I will always be here to hold that space for you. My podcast is my favorite space that I hang out in, and I know that we have a special connection in this space. I know that you know that too. So I always love hearing from you all, hearing when you message me after these episodes and you go, Sheena, like I heard this light bulb moment and I just wanted to say thank you, or I just wanted to share that. Like, I know that sometimes I give you a quick reply like, thanks so much, or I'm so glad it found you and this and that. Because again, it's busy. Life is busy. And sometimes my virtual assistants even reply for me when I'm super busy, okay? But I see the comments. I see the messages. I never, ever take for granted how important it is that we have spaces like this to connect and grow and learn from each other. Because again, not everyone will. Probably 90% of the people in your life, they're going to make fun of you for being into personal development, or they're not into it, or they're not your thing, unless you're, years down the track. And so you've surrounded yourself with everyone who's incredibly into it. But a lot of the time we don't get to choose our family. And a lot of the time our family aren't going to have the same views and values and things as us. And so if you're here and you're listening to stuff like this, you're learning, you're growing, and you're doing it despite the fact that a lot of people around you just aren't going to get it, or you can't really share it with them. Do you know how brave that is? I see you. I am you. Yeah, I've been you. I've got incredible business people around me now. My business community is incredible. But I will admit, in my personal life still, there are still people who aren't going to get it. But I love them and they love me for other reasons, and that's okay. So I love you, beautiful soul. Thanks for making it this far. I'm going to see you in the next episode of the 4Q podcast. And just a reminder, if you want to access that masterclass or learn more about the Academy, it's all in the link in the bio site below this episode. All right, you have a wonderful week and I'll talk to you soon.